For those of you out there wondering, am I healed enough to be a healer? A lot of you aren't going to like this answer, but yes and no. I'll explain. When I was taking my coaching program, the longer one, the coaches sent out a newsletter with that very question. And their theory was that a lot of us overthink it and just put it off forever because we don't think we're healed enough. And there's truth to that for sure, because due to some traumas or upbringings, there's a good amount of people that kind of are perfectionists, like we have to get it just right. And we can't start something until everything's perfect. We're in the perfect place. We're feeling perfect. We're in the perfect environment. And obviously, that's not going to happen because we're works in progress. There's always something we can improve. There's always more knowledge we can learn. The days of, I'm an enlightened guru. I have all the knowledge. I'm infallible. That was acting. It never turned out to be real. So thankfully, some blessings that have come with the crash of like the guru era or like the abbot is authenticity is finally coming to the forefront. And that's definitely a good thing because that really brings about real healing. We need that to be one of the factors if you want to go as far as you can with this. So I do agree with some of what my previous mentors said in that newsletter, but I think they were just as wrong as they are right. And a lot of the coaching programs or healing classes or spiritual schools have similar pitches. Oh, everyone is in a perfect place to become a healer. Everyone's healed enough to become a healer. No, not everyone is healed enough to be a coach or a mentor or healer or spiritual leader. There's some people, and I've seen this and heard way too many stories, that get into it way too early. They need to do much more healing on themselves first. The blessing and the curse of the spiritual and healing fields right now, are they really accessible? It's a blessing because a lot of the official accreditation institutions are corrupt, and there could be too high barriers to entry. And most importantly, I found that they're demanding an archaic way of doing things too. And they don't allow better ways of doing things in. If you ever go down the rabbit hole and do a lot of research, you'll find there was amazing information and technology and ways of doing things that have been suppressed. And a lot of like the current institutions we have, their job is to make sure that information doesn't get out, that technology stays hidden. And we're starting to figure that out. And there's certain healing modalities of professions under the Western ways of doing things that have to go by the book. You have to do this and that. And the problem with that is everyone's different. We're all different and are better at doing things different ways. And we all respond to things differently too. So what works for one person might not work for another person. So those, I think, are great things about the accessibility. Now, one of the main problems with healing and spirituality is anyone thinks they can do it. Because there's no real selection process, someone could just decide out of the blue, hey, I'm going to be a healer. I'm spiritual. And there's no one to really tell them otherwise. And in fact, a lot of the people in the spiritual community will say, oh, don't be so judgmental, and healers should attack healers and all of that. And yeah, you want a general positive vibration, but there's also a good amount of scam artists out there now because of this. I have to admit, I do find it somewhat humorous that the healers or spiritual people that say healers shouldn't badmouth other healers are, oddly enough, the healers that have like Reddit pages calling them out for fabricating their backgrounds or scamming people. It's never the healers with a decent reputation who are on the forums saying healers should badmouth other healers. So I don't know. Maybe there's some correlation to that. But anyways, because there's no barrier to entry, there's a lot of people I've seen falling into it that shouldn't be doing it. There's currently a lot of dark energy in the healing, spiritual, and consciousness communities. And like I said, I've seen it and heard it. A lot of people get drawn to these fields because they suffered childhood trauma. Not always, but most. And there's some of us that really legitimately heal it. We heal the main stuff and we dedicate our lives to healing the rest as best we can. Speaking for myself, I certainly had a shadow, but through plant medicines, therapy, and other healing modalities, I was able to recognize it and eventually embrace it. I really turned my life around. I'm not the person I used to be. And you really can do that as well. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm positive about that. However, there are a good amount of people going as healers or coaches that have not healed that shadow side. They just jump into it way before they're ready. And the results can be really bad because the clients that come to these individuals look up to them. When you're new to this field, you don't know better. You think everyone who gets into this has good intentions, has gone on a long journey themselves, has really worked on themselves. But that's not the case. In fact, it could be the complete opposite. I've seen coaches or healers take a weekend class and then they market a ton afterwards. They just jump right into it. And it's impossible to know completely what you're doing with that little training or experience. Yet the image they're presenting is they're all knowing. And I think that's really bad. And why coaching has generally such a bad reputation now, because there's so many fakes or phonies that are doing it. And why I waited so long to do it, because I would just roll my eyes when I'd see the social media ads for one or their reels. I was like, this is because I'm at the point where I can really detect what's real and what's fake now. And I just sensed a lot of BS within the whole field. So no, I don't think those people should be healers. And I don't think a lot of you are cut out to be healers. But you could be. I do believe most, if not all people, although some of them not in this lifetime. I'll never believe that. Maybe a miracle could happen, but yeah, some people I just don't think are going to awaken this time around, and that's okay. That's their mission. But I do believe a lot of us can be healers. So for those people who've only scratched the surface with their healing, no, I don't think you should be a healer or coach yet. You're not ready. It's a bigger responsibility than most people would think. And you just would be able to handle properly a lot of the things that could come up. So, anyone that falls under that, I would recommend to do more healing. And that's a good thing. However, I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that have been going about your healing journey for a while now. And the types that have been healing for at least a little while, hopefully a good while, and you're just putting off becoming a healer or guide or mentor because you think you need to do more healing, now you might be ready to become a healer. You probably are ready to become a healer. If you're aware enough that you've done a lot of healing, but you still have more healing to do, that's actually a really good and healthy place to be. That's an amazing mindset to have. Because the harsh truth is, and most people don't realize this at the beginning of their paths, because if you're like me, I thought once I started healing, things would kind of lift up and it would just be a straight line. The big common realization, though, is when you really start healing things you need to deal with, more things arise. So it can feel counterintuitive because you become more aware, more conscious, and you go deeper. And that's unattractive to a lot of people. So much so that a lot of people cannot do that, which is why so many avoid it. And one of the problems is a lot of healers and coaches don't tell you what level they've gone to or aren't upfront or honest about it. So it's hard to tell what level they could take you to. And if you're new, you might not even know what level you want to go to. Speaking for myself, when I first started healing, I just wanted to deal with the surface level things. Because I didn't know better, not because I didn't want to address them. I just wanted to heal anxiety and depression, things like that. But it was like an onion. Then once I dealt with that, it peeled off another layer. Oh, there was something there too. And I realized, oh, you have to address the root causes of all these things. And sometimes it can just go deeper and deeper. Feels like a bottomless pit or even whack-a-mole sometimes. But there are benefits for sure. It really is the work to do because if you keep track of it or do check-ins after a certain amount of time, you can really chart your progress and be like, wow, I'm responding so much better. I'm having healthier relationships and interactions. And it is nice to see. And I don't think of it in a way that it's like a never-ending journey, like it's a burden or something. I like to frame it like it's an adventure. Like, where does this path go? What will be next? It can be exciting at times, not all the time. A lot of times it can be brutal just the same, but I admit I do have a curiosity and want to see where this leads. How far can I go? How much will my life improve overall and in what aspects if I keep going? When I started, I felt a lot of my teachers let me down because it would be exposed that they weren't walking their talk. I still learned great information about them, but it cheapens the message if someone who you look up to isn't doing what they're saying they do. I can tell you, oh, all the benefits of this and that, But if I'm not doing it, then why? If it has benefits, why wouldn't I be doing it? It could be very confusing, especially to someone who's first starting out. So that's why it's important for me to operate with integrity and really walking my talk, backing it up. I could speak from experience. And if someone questions me, I'll be like, no, look, this is what really had this effect on my life. And that's it. It ends there because I know it had that effect. If someone doesn't do that, how can they really stand behind what they're saying? In the end, we can only meet people to the level we're at. And that's why it's important for me to keep going and why I try to relay to you the value of keeping going on your path. I've just heard so many horror stories from friends and colleagues about their experiences with their coaching programs. And when they were doing practice sessions, there was someone who came a long way. And to give them the benefit of the doubt, they probably did. But at the same time, they had a lot further to go. And just during a ceremony that the other person in the coaching program held, they were talking about satanic abuse and all this horrible stuff that the person throwing the session wasn't prepared to deal with. And it really sets a bad energy to the space and the rest of what ensued after that. In another program, there was a licensed professional who was really respected and had a lot of credentials to back them up. Problem is, a lot of other people in the program didn't want to work with them because they were always in victim energy. And it got to the point where one other person who was in the program was so frustrated that they snapped at them. they drew the line in a practice session, nonetheless. One they didn't have to be doing. Keep in mind that these are nowhere near the worst cases I see it or heard of it. I don't want to get into the gruesome details, but it goes to show you that some of the people attracted to these coaching programs or healing classes are not ready for them. They still have a ton of work to do on themselves. And it's questionable their motives of why they're attracted to it in the first place. If you're at the point where you're considering taking the plunge and becoming a healer or something in a related field, then I would say it's a good thing that you have some hesitancy. I would use that to pause and self-reflect. Ask yourself, how much healing have I done on myself? How far have I come? Where did I start and where am I now? If you've made some real progress, then you really have something you can help people with because you've done it yourself. And to tell you the truth, if it's just because you're self-conscious and you're just hesitant, then by all means, I believe you are ready to become a healer. You are healed enough. Unfortunately, the people who aren't ready and aren't healed enough to become a healer aren't going to be watching this video. They don't care. They're going to do it anyways. Their interest isn't about helping people. Their concern isn't about how they affect others or how much impact they could have on other people's lives. So congratulations. If you're sitting or standing there, considering everything I brought up today, and there's a good chance, yes, you probably are healed enough to become a healer. If it's because you're just self-conscious or maybe a little uncertain, lacking self-confidence, that's a good sign, and you can work on that. And starting to transition into this field could actually help you. That is when I actually start overcoming some of those issues myself. If you want a more personal and accurate assessment, I am offering coaching. I recommend checking out the link below and applying to see if we're a good fit.